Hi, everyone. I hope that you're doing well. I hope that you're safe out there. And I hope that you're able to keep up with what we're doing in this class. All right, so this week we're doing Virginia Woolf. And Virginia Woolf is one of the most important feminist authors of the 20th century. She was extremely feminist, and she really wanted to take the advances that women had made, and we talked about some of that during the woman question chapter during Victorian age, and she wanted to advance those even further. So the first reading, which is about 8 pages long, is going to be a small section of a book that she wrote called A Room of One's Own. And basically what she said in this book is, in order for a woman to write, she needs, an income and a room of her own. So that's where the title of the book comes from, is from that quote, which she says. But in this one, she starts off by saying, hey, I wanted to look and see what female writers during Shakespeare's time wrote. And what she found is nothing. There was no published works. And why? Because the women were basically the property of the men that they married, or their dads, if that was the case. And so they didn't have a chance to write their own stuff. And she comes to the conclusion that she also goes and says, well, what can I find written about women at the time? And really it was a whole bunch of rules about how the husband can only beat her a certain amount and things like that. So she comes up with this little scenario, and she says, well, what happens if a woman was a genius during Shakespeare's time? In fact, what if this woman was Shakespeare's sister? So she creates a fictional sister for Shakespeare. Now, the name Judith comes with the fact that he had a daughter named Judith. But she creates this fictional sister and says, I imagine that if a woman had Shakespeare's genius during the time of Shakespeare, this is what would happen. And it doesn't turn out well for the woman. So pay close attention to that as you read it. And then we've got Voices from World War II. Not to put too fine a point on it, but World War II, as devastating as World War I was in the 1910s, World War II is even far more devastating. A lot more loss of life, a lot more technology and killing machines, and of course you know all about the Holocaust and things like that. So World War II was really something that was a horrifying event. And then Virginia Woolf is going to write 3 Guineas, and you're only going to get about 4 pages of that. And in 3 Guineas, Virginia Woolf makes this argument. She says, I am a woman, but, and everybody says, hey, these British soldiers are going to go fight for women. Well, the problem with that was that she said, as women in Britain, we don't have any rights. We can't, for many years we couldn't own property. It's only been recently we could do that. For many years we couldn't vote. It's only been recently we could do that. And if a woman marries somebody outside of Britain, say like a guy from France, she's no longer a British citizen. She's now a French citizen. So she says, well, with all of this going on, I don't know why you're fighting for us. We couldn't care less. So she makes the argument that the best way to make sure that the men stop fighting is to have the women be indifferent and say, if you're fighting for us, you're fighting for the wrong reasons. And then maybe the men would stop. And she finishes up by saying that her country is not, as a woman, she has no country. Right? She's not saying she's English. She's saying she has no country. Her country is the entire world. So that's something to bear in mind when you read 3 Guineas. So Virginia Woolf, a very important author of the 20th century. And I hope that you enjoy getting to know her a little better.